I think gaming addiction is quite an interesting area because I think people seem to separate it out from any other addictive tendency. And I think, you know, once people, you know, for example, if someone's very, very keen on football, playing football, and we don't call it football addiction. And I think it's interesting how we use the word addiction to potentially demonise activities. And I do believe there are addictive tendencies in people, but I think it's important to look at, not look at the activity in itself as being the demon, if you like, or being to blame, and actually look at what else is happening in people's lives to encourage that addictive behaviour.
Årsakene til at spill blir problematisk for noen mennesker like mange som det mennesker. Sånn at det liksom sammenblandingen av spillenes faktorer og de individuelle faktorene som gjør at for noen så blir dette vanskelig.
I know there are cases where gaming has taken over people's lives very, very negatively, but we shouldn't isolate it and demonise gaming for that. There are plenty of other addictions and plenty of other circumstances and examples of people having something in their lives that destroys their personal relationships, and that's a symptom of something else going on in their lives, and that's what we need to look at.
The media, I mean, particularly a while back, I think, when we had those, you know, one computer screens, made a big fuss about children being addicted. I haven't seen that in 30 years of research. We had one girl once in one situation where we had to wrest the controller from her fingers, you know, because it was somebody else's turn. But really that was because she'd invested so much time into the problem solving that was in front of her that she didn't want to then give up just before she'd got to the end point that she could see approaching. But I've never seen it.
I think each game is very, very different in terms of how it hooks people in. I think there are, in my experience, a lot of simulation games are extremely addictive because Sims, for example, which is very, very popular with teenage girls, is a simulation game where you're running a life and you're running potentially a family in some circumstances, and they become extremely addictive because you are living your life through this sim, and the sim, you become really invested in that sim's experiences and life on screen, and that can be extremely addictive in the broadest sense, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's problematic behaviour. But each genre of game, you know, a lot of games have a beginning, middle and end, and you play through it and that's it, and people might play it again. Role-playing games and simulation games don't tend to have that end state.
I think as a parent you should create a general environment of healthy activities, whether it be gaming, whether it be reading a book, whether it be watching the telly, whether it be outdoor activity. I sometimes get frustrated where gaming seems to be set aside as something that's completely different from all other forms of entertainment or all other forms of child activity. I remember once having a conversation with a friend of mine who had two children. They were brother and sister, the brother really liked playing his DS, and the sister really liked reading. And they came round and they both sat down, and the sister opened her book and started reading, and the boy opened up his DS and started playing. After about an hour, the parent came in and particularly told the son to stop gaming, but for some reason she felt it was fine that the daughter was reading. So it's just this perception that even though they were both just in their own worlds, consuming their own entertainment, there's this perception that gaming was a badder thing to be doing than reading was. And I don't really understand why that should be the case. I mean, there's whole arguments about reading and literature helps with reading skills, but you know, we know that there are plenty of things that gaming is good for. So why should that be victimised as something that that child shouldn't be doing, whereas reading is something that the other child should be doing? Neither of them were socialising with anyone, neither of them were playing with anyone, neither of them were having any exercise or getting any fresh air or doing anything more than the other one was doing, but kind of the boy and his ability to sit down and play the game for kind of long stretches of time seemed to be the one that was focused on.
And really, you know, there's a lot of ignorance around media in general, including the internet, when you're not participating in it yourself and you're not actually seeing what young people are enjoying and experiencing and what they're getting out of it. And I think it's really important not to let that ignorance prevent a healthy balance in the young person's life. So understanding what young people are doing when they're playing games, what they're experiencing, getting them to talk about it and talk about the story or talk about how they feel when they're playing character or even playing with them is really important. And I think that encourages a positive attitude towards gaming, which is then something that potentially the whole family can enjoy.
For å få en positiv innflytelse så jo den hovedmekanismen når vi snakker om å skape positiv innflytelse på barn, jo å faktisk tenke modellæring. Hva det jeg gjør, og hva ønsker jeg at mine barn skal gjøre? Og da det viktig å ikke bare si at barna skal gjøre, men faktisk gjøre det samme selv. Hvis man for eksempel har en begrensning på at barna ikke får være på internett, eller spille, eller se på TV utover en viss tidsperiode, så det da svært viktig at ikke mor og far sitter i sofakroken med PC-en på fanget, og på Facebook, YouTube, VG-nett, mens barna ikke får lov. Så man må tenke på hva det jeg gjør, og hvordan vil jeg at mine barn skal ha det.
I remember when I was a journalist, interviewing a mother about Myst, which she played with her son. And it was the only time that her son talked to her while they were playing through microphones, talked to her about girlfriends and about things that he might be a bit embarrassed about talking to her otherwise. So I think there's lots and lots of positive ways that you can encourage positive behaviour around gaming as a parent or guardian. And it means, I'm sorry to say, that you might have to get involved yourself. You never know, you might enjoy it.
Parents should remember that they are those role models, that children will watch what they do, they will adore what they do, however critical they seem to be. And just because you can't play a computer game to save your life doesn't mean that you're not a great parent. That's really, really important. And as I've often said, the best sprinters in the world, the best tennis players in the world, the best sailors in the world, their coaches are never as good as they were. But those athletes always admire their coaches for their wisdom, for their experience, for what they knew. It's the same with children and parents. Parents sometimes think, I was no good at school, I'm no good at computer games, I've got nothing to offer here, I'm just going to get myself out of this dialogue. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Foreldre som ønsker å ha positiv ramme rundt spill hjemme, må begynne å tenke på spill før spillet kommer i hus.
Jeg tenker ikke at foreldre må vite noe om alle spill som finnes, men det kan være lurt å vite noe om det spillet man anskaffer. For det jo som regel foreldre som anskaffer spillene. De gangene hvor barna, eller i de tilfellene hvor barna blitt så store at de anskaffer spillene selv, eller at de for eksempel får spillene i presang, så det også lett å sette seg inn i og bare vite hva slags spill dette, og hva det går ut på.
Samtidig så det viktig at foreldre lærer seg og kjenner til på hvilken måte kan jeg som foreldre sette begrensninger i en spillkonsol, eller i et nettverk hjemme, eller på annen måte. Og da kan det være at man faktisk setter begrensninger at på denne spillkonsolen som vi har, det ikke lov til å spille spill med høyere aldersgrense enn 12-16 år. Det det selvfølgelig tilpasset de barna man måtte ha hjemme.
And you can also limit some of the kind of live connected functionality of the console. So again, in Xbox, you can set up your child with the ability to play other people on racing games, for example, but they can't speak to other people or they can't hear other people. Also, you can restrict, you can have it so that they can hear them, but you can't see them. In some of the games, you can have a video chat. So you can turn that on and off, so the ability to actually video communicate. You can also turn on and off the ability to share images or share videos through social networks. So there's a whole raft of tools that are available. And a lot of the consoles realize that parents do want the ability to be able to turn that on and turn that off. And also within within Xbox, you've got a timing device. I think it's called a parent timer or a family timer. And basically, you can say, this is the amount of time I want my children to be playing on it. And literally, when the timer gets to the end, then you can't play any more games. So it's not just about the content. They are also trying to work with parents to try and give them tools to be able to say, look, you know, we all sat down and we all agreed that 2 hours a day was plenty, or if not too much, so therefore let's, you know, draw the line at that, and when it gets to that point, the Xbox is going to shut off.
En ting som kan høres ut som en bagatell, men som min erfaring betyr ganske mye, for eksempel, hvordan det med lukkede dører? Hvordan vil vi ha det med lukkede dører I vår familie? Det greit å sitte bak en lukket dør time ut og time inn og spille data? Eller det sånn at du kan sitte og spille data, men dørene skal være oppe?
I think a big issue is where the children play the games. And you'll know, I'm sure, the pressure that parents have to equip the bedroom with the latest devices. Television in the bedroom, a computer, a console in the bedroom. And for me, you know, anything that children do in the dark in their bedroom for 3 hours on their own is a worry, you know, whatever it is, you know. You know, I think being a parent and having a child is a social relationship, and yeah, children need some privacy sometimes. But if they're disappearing all the time to engage with technology, that's fatal. It's much worse, by the way, if they've just got a television set in their bedroom and they sit in their bedroom watching television. I can't think of much worse than that. You know, if you get sent to prison, you get locked up for 23 hours a day with a television set, and it's a punishment. So why parents will allow children to do that in their home, I can't imagine. You know.
Aller mest tror jeg at det å snakke om spill, snakke om hva spillet altså hva personen gjør, særlig når vi snakker om det som vi da kjenner som flerspillerspill, altså massive spill som foregår over nettet, hvor man spiller sammen med mange personer. Det å snakke om hva barn og unge opplever inne I spillene, hva de faktisk driver med, hva de gode på, hva de ikke gode på, hva de trenger å trene på samme måte som vi snakker om fotballtrening eller dansetrening for eksempel. Når barna kommer hjem fra fotballtrening så spør vi ofte, hvordan gikk det I dag da? Klarte du å score noen mål? På samme måte tenker jeg at det å snakke om spill på samme måte kan også være med på å legge en gode spillevaner.
Parents should be in a dialogue with their children about the family's behavior, about the relationship between the parent or parents and the children. It's not, you don't just lay it down like tablets of stone and sort of biblical thing, you know. You have a conversation about it. You have a conversation for two reasons. One is, you know, if you have ownership, you have engagement. So, you know, the decisions you discuss will be owned by both of you, and they're more likely to be adhered to. But, much more importantly, that meta-level reflection, children thinking about what is right and what is appropriate, that meta-level reflection is where they also think about their own learning. When you're saying to a child, you know, I'd like you playing games, and maybe you should do a little more of that and a little less watching movies, because with a movie you're passive and a game you're active, the child might think, oh yes, I hadn't thought about that. And it's that self-awareness that absolutely is a secret weapon in propelling children forward. If children can reflect on their own learning and their own behaviour, they're rocket propelled into the future. If you just say, this is what we do, this is the way we do it round here, son, you know, then you're locking that reflection off in a fatal way.
Å regulere barns dataspilling kan gjøres ved hjelp av helt sånne naturlige tider, altså tider på døgnet hvor det passer seg å spille. Så må vi nesten gå liksom et hakk videre og si at dette gjelder jo ikke for alle spill, for noen spill jo styrt av virtuelle verdener, andre omgivelser enn bare akkurat hjemme I stua når man spiller liksom enpersonsspill for eksempel, eller bare spiller spill på TV-en eller noe sånt. Men når man da spiller flerpersonsspill, så må man jo også forholde seg til at det andre tider som gjelder. For eksempel at laget har tider hvor de skal treffes, og det tidspunktet det krasjer med foreldrenes tid til å spise middag, det jo det aller vanligste. Da det jo balansegangen mellom å være den som bestemmer at nå skal vi ha det sånn som vi har det, nå skal vi gjøre det vi har bestemt, Og på den andre siden være åpen for at man også kan ta inn nye rutiner i familien. At man kan være åpen for å høre på barns behov for å kunne fortsette sin spilling. Altså hva er det de faktisk trenger av tilstedeværelse i den virtuelle verden for å kunne fortsette sin spilling, og hva er det de kan unnvære?
I personally think it's about having a conversation, about letting them know what you're trying to achieve and kind of having everyone signed up to the same thing, almost kind of writing a contract, if you like, or having an agreement between the two of you that this is how much you'll play and after that this is what you'll then do. But it can hugely depend on the child. You might need to throw bribery in there, you might need to throw blackmail in there, you might need to throw whatever it is that you need to do, whichever kind of works well. Personally, I think a more collaborative, cooperative approach is the one that works best, but who knows?
Det som lurt jo da å snakk i fredstid, pleier jeg å si. Ikke snakk når temperaturen høy, aggresjonsnivået høyt. Ikke snakk mens kampen pågår. Ikke kom og forstyrr når barna liksom veldig intenst opptatt av noe, eller dypt konsentrert. Det ikke da som den beste tiden til å sette seg ned og diskutere hva skal vi gjøre med dette, for dette blitt et problem.
Det at man kan ha rett til behandling selv om det ikke en diagnose, jo et veldig viktig element. For det gjør at det heller ikke så viktig at det skal kalles en avhengighet. Det viktige for personer som jobber med problemet her, jo at det mulig for både barn og voksne å motta kompetent hjelp.